You ever feel like you know what to do, you're just not doing it? Well, I'll be the first to tell you that you're not alone. In this video, we're unpacking the science of decision making, why procrastination creeps in, and finally, how we can beat it. Welcome back, this is Kevin. If this is your first time to the channel, we talk about things that matter here. So today we're talking about decision making, procrastination, and how we can finally beat not doing what we know we should be doing. And as my boss and mentor, Tony Robbins, says, this is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. So we're going to start with the psychology of decision making. So what exactly is going on in the brain when we're making a decision? And I got to tell you, decision making is not just a logical process, meaning we're creating deductions from data or from evidence that is proved to us. It's not just a logical process. Decision making is a highly emotional process. And if you study any kind of sales, you know that sales is often defined as the transfer of emotion, one emotion to the next, and that leads to a decision. And hopefully that leads to a buy if you're in sales. But at its core, at the foundational level, decision making is about risk and reward. Our brain is always trying to calculate, is this worth it? Is this action worth the reward? Or should I just avoid this discomfort of the action and stay in my comfort zone? I mentioned this in a prior video, and as you know, I'm not going to get too scientific, but there's a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. It's the logic center. And this is the part of the brain that handles critical thinking, long-term planning, and goal setting. And as you may know, there's a counterpart to that called the amygdala. And that part of the brain handles fear, stress, and emotional responses. And is there any guess which one is triggered most often when we're faced with decisions to make? Any guesses? You'd be correct. The amygdala, of course. Here's a fun fact. A study from Princeton University determined that if we're faced with too many choices, too many decisions, we actually procrastinate and most commonly do nothing. It's called decision paralysis. And instead of choosing something, even the best choice, we choose nothing out of the list. So if you're looking at people in sales and they say, would you like A or B? They're not giving you A, B, C, D, E, F. They're not, because that will create decision paralysis. But if you're faced with two clear choices, the likelihood of you choosing one and acting on it goes up significantly. And Tony Robbins often tells us that it is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So the whole point is to really understand that your decisions and your choices, and if you know what to do and you're not doing it, all of those scenarios are because you may be in decision paralysis, you may be making an emotional decision based on fear or stress, or your brain might be saying the risk is not worth the effort, so we're not going to do anything. And thus we procrastinate. And that's a little bit of why we procrastinate, but really, like, what is the real why that we procrastinate? And it's not because you're lazy. I wish that were the easy answer, but it's not because you're lazy. It's a little more complex than that. And one of the biggest culprits of procrastination is instant gratification. And we all know, because we got these phones strapped to us and we get what we want whenever we want. And so when we don't see the reward coming our way very fast, guess what we do? Nothing. We don't do anything. So our brains are wired to seek this instant gratification. And when we scan the landscape of all the decisions we have to make and we see decisions that don't bring that instant gratification, that instant pleasure, that instant return, our brain says, yeah, I don't think we'll do that. And that's exactly why information is not the problem, because we all know what to do to be healthy, wealthy, and in a great relationship. We all know what to do. Why don't we do it? Because those things take time. And there's no instant gratification in any of those things. We have to put effort into those things in order to see the return. So most of us say, well, instead of being healthy, we'll just continue doing this other thing because there's no instant gratification in going to the gym and working out and eating kale. I'm not suggesting that you have to eat kale, I'm just saying. Here's another fun fact. Dr. Piers Steele from the University of Calgary and the author of the Procrastination Equation found that people will procrastinate more often when the task is found to be boring, frustrating, or difficult. And to me, that kind of makes a lot of sense. You know, when something's boring, frustrating, or difficult, yeah, I don't want to do those things either. But here's the fascinating part. Here's the real kicker, if you will. Procrastination is not just about putting things off. It's actually a way that we avoid negative emotions. We think that if I just delay this decision, then I won't feel stressed. Then I won't have to address the fear, or I won't feel anxious right now. And we all know where that leads. It ends up creating more stress and more fear and more anxiety in the long run, because we don't do what we know we should be doing. All right, so I'm not gonna get any more scientific on that. You all get it. You know what procrastination is. We all experience it. We've all had it at certain points in our lives. But the million-dollar question is, how do we fix it? How do we stop procrastinating? First, let's talk about creating momentum. Tony Robbins says that progress equals happiness. And what he means by that is that when we feel like we're moving forward, even small amounts, it encourages us to keep moving, to keep going, because we're seeing this little bit of progress. So step one in eliminating procrastination would be to break the goal or the decision into micro decisions, into smaller goals, more digestible goals. So the idea would be, instead of climbing the mountain today, break the mountain into base camps, just like they do at Mount Everest, where instead of climbing Mount Everest in one day, which you can't do anyway, you have base camp 1, base camp 2, base camp 3. You break it into parts, smaller goals, and your objective for that day might be just to get to base camp 3, not climb all of Mount Everest. And if you use that same strategy with your decision making and your goals, meaning I don't have to decide to change the world, I'm going to decide to change someone's life today, or bless someone for lunch, or something like that. Something small, micro decision that will make you feel progress. And if you talk to any psychologist, they'll tell you that our brain is wired to remember unfinished tasks. So when we create a small step and we take that small step forward, we're actually opening a mental loop. And our brain wants to close that mental loop, but it's not complete, so it can't. So that idea keeps us engaged and keeps us pushing along. And really it comes down to starting. Once you start, the brain can't stop until it's complete for the most part. So that's the science behind it, that's the idea behind it, and that's the psychology behind it. So eliminating procrastination is about opening these loops and keeping the brain focused on progress. Step 2 is to limit your options. Too many choices will create overwhelm, too many choices create the lack of clarity, and too many choices create procrastination. So if you can get really clear on your goals and why those goals are important, or the decision and why the decision is important, then you will be able to limit your choices so that you're not choosing from a big menu of things. You're choosing from things that only move you towards your desires. Sounds so easy, right? But actually clarity is easy. It's a 4-step process. It's knowing where you are, knowing where you want to be, identifying as many obstacles as you can, and then rinse and repeat that over and over and over again, because it never stops. Clarity is not a destination, it's a process. So by gaining clarity on your goals, you actually are reducing procrastination by limiting your choices. And step 3, this is the big one, accountability. Now we all need it, we all want it, we all say that we need it, but accountability is a big thing. But I will add one more word to that. Self-accountability is the masterful choice to make here. I'm all for having someone else outside of you holding you accountable to your decisions. I announce things to my coach, I announce things to my peers, sometimes to social media, I announce things I'm going for so that I have that accountability. But ultimately, I can't use that as blame for me not doing it. I have to hold myself accountable to this decision and this goal if it's going to stick. If it's going to be really transformational, I have to hold myself accountable to it. But studies do show that if you have someone else in your life, your chances for completing a task or completing a goal go from 65% to 96% if you check in with that person on a regular basis. And I'll be honest, that's why coaching is so powerful. You know, when I meet with my coach, one of the things that we do by the end of the session is we define what we're going to do, not what we're going to plan or what we're going to think about, what we're going to do, the action we're going to take for the next 2 weeks and the next week, whatever the time frame is that will move us toward my goal. So it is about this accountability and clear actions that we're going to take. All right, so there you have it. If you know what to do, you just can't seem to do it, or you think that, you know, procrastination is just something that's in your DNA and you're not choosing, it's just who you are. I've got news for you. There is a way to get around that, and you've got to understand that procrastination comes from too many choices. It comes from not being clear on your goals. It comes from thinking you have to climb the whole mountain today. That's where procrastination comes from. And if we can break this down and understand the psychology of our decision making, then we can combat procrastination so that we're getting more done and living to our full potential. And then after that, find someone to hold you accountable. Get a coach, get a coach, get a coach. Find someone to hold you accountable to these decisions, someone that's not related to you, that doesn't live in your house, that is unbiased, that will actually have tough conversations with you when you need it. But find someone that will hold you accountable, and then hold yourself accountable. Take responsibility. It's not their fault, it's yours. Take responsibility for that. That's how you really overcome this stuff. Hey, thanks for being here today. If this video was helpful for you, I'd like you to share it with someone you think it might help as well. And also consider hitting subscribe to my little channel, or maybe giving me a thumb to promote me on my next journey to make the next video. And I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. My name is Kevin, and as always, I'll see you next time.